everyone, and welcome back to an episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. I'm one of your hosts, Sheldon McKinney.
And I'm your other host, Ruth Ann Fink.
Brandon Reed has a wide experience in Kentucky FFA. He was a LaRue County FFA member. He served as the 1999-2000 Kentucky FFA state president. He's a former state legislator, and now he is the executive director of the Kentucky Office of Agriculture Policy. So, Brandon, your introduction is a mouthful, but how about you tell us who you are and share with your listeners about yourself and tell us about your FFA experience.
Well, thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Ruth Ann. On this great snowy Kentucky day, as I look out the window, it's coming down out there. But it's just an honor to be with you all today. Thank you so much for the invitation. I truly appreciate the opportunity. Like you said, I'm Brandon Reed, born and raised in LaRue County, Kentucky, on a fifth-generation family farm. We have row crops and a cattle operation and about 200 acres. That's been in the family since about 1926. So next year we'll celebrate our farm's 100th anniversary. So we're really excited about that in LaRue County. I have a beautiful wife, Olivia. We will be married 15 years this year, coming up in September 11th, actually. We have three beautiful children. We have Chloe, age 13. We have Allie, who just turned 10 last week. And we have Wilkin, our son, who is 5 years old, and they are the apple of our eyes. We love every minute with them. They keep us young. And because coming up on my 25th anniversary of the state FA officer year, I'm not young anymore. So anyway, but they keep us young. But I was a LaRue County FFA member, and my dad was an FFA member in LaRue County. My grandpa was also. My grandpa has had his state FFA degree in 1948. My dad received his state FFA degree in 1971, and I got my FFA degree in 1971 for the state and American FFA degree in 2000. FFA is just a strong heritage in my family. You know, when I was at the supper table growing up, Dad would recite the FFA creed, and I just thought that was cool. So I just wanted to follow in his footsteps and the family's legacy. But I had the privilege of serving as the LaRue County FFA president my junior year. I was a Lincoln Trail regional president my senior year in high school, and I had the honor of being the first state FFA president from LaRue County, serving in 1999-2000. And we was in that transition year, so I was a national delegate to the national convention when the last year in Kansas City, Missouri. So that was real unique. And then I was state president the first year when the FFA convention moved to Louisville, Kentucky. So it was a blessing. Many friendships. I'm an only child, but I can tell you that from the FFA experience, I have many brothers and sisters to this day because of the FFA experience. And, I truly believe in the FFA motto: learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve. And I try to live out every day, and I carry it with me for the past, 25 years. It's just been an awesome ride, and I cherish every minute of it. But it's just great to be here today and share what I can about my FFA experience and what we're doing now in the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and moving Kentucky forward, one conversation, one handshake at a time. It's an awesome experience.
Yeah, you really have a rich history especially with Kentucky FFA, and I learned something new about you. I did not know you were the first state officer from LaRue County. So I'd learned something new. That's a good piece of information to have there. Yeah.
State president. We've had many state officers. We had JD Gentry.
Okay.
Yeah, JD Gentry was 2 years before me. We had Farrah Harnett. She was the state treasurer a couple years before that. Misty Gentry. She is the ag agent there in LaRue County now. She was the state vice president. But I was so I got some bragging rights. I was first state FFA president. So I carried the bragging rights. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been many state officers follow you since from LaRue County. That's a great FFA chapter. And we want to talk some more about your FFA experience too. We mentioned in your introduction that you represented Kentucky's 24th House District from 2017 to 2024. Maybe talk about what inspired you to make the leap into running for public office, and how did FFA help prepare you for that role?
My family has always been in the realm of public servants. So my dad, he had worked for the Department of Agriculture. He retired with 31 years, worked in the Division of Weights and Measures. Now it's called Regulation Inspection. My mom, she worked in the county clerk's office, and she was the county treasurer for LaRue County for almost 2 decades. My grandpa, he was a circuit court clerk in Hart County for 35 years. I had an uncle that was a sheriff, and then my other half of my family, they was educators, teachers. So almost all my family, other than farming, we always dove into public service. Trying to serve the Commonwealth of Kentucky with the servant's heart. So I think that my path kind of started in high school, being involved in the FFA, the leadership experiences, meeting people, getting out of your comfort zone, kind of paved the way for me to look at public service myself and what I wanted to look at. So actually, when I was during the summer months in my junior and senior year, I worked part time at the circuit clerk's office. That's the court system, and kind of got a good understanding of that. And then after high school, I started full time there, and then went to community college for a couple of years. And then, of course, that was back when the University of Kentucky, the community college system was part of the University of Kentucky. And then after, I got the basics out of the way, went to University of Kentucky, and I went to work in the court system in Fayette County. I did that while I was attending University of Kentucky. And then after that, I received a job with the Administrative Office of the Courts as a field representative. And I went around and trained deputy clerks on their job duties, and did basically court audits all over Kentucky. So, as a state FA officer, we hit those miles. You probably travel over 20,000 miles as a state officer. So that got me into the realm of traveling Kentucky for the court system. And that just I worked for the court system for 10 years, loved it, loved every minute of it. And then I just always wanted to do something for myself as to give back. And the story goes, when I was 8 years old, I served as a page for my state representative, and he let me sit in his seat that day. And I just took in the experience, and I kind of told myself that day that I wanted to, get back to this seat one day and represent my people, because he was a great representative. His name was Bill Ark, and he just did a great job and made my day just a joy. And that stuck with me. That planted a seed in my heart. And then so just fast forward, 2016, I ran for our district seat. At the time, it was LaRue, Greene, and Marion County, and I won that election. And it was just a blessing. But the cool thing about that is the seat that I sat in, it was seat 91. That was the same seat as my state representative. So I've sat in the same seat that he did, and I've stayed there ever since. But being a legislator was an awesome experience. Fast forward a few years, we did a district reorg, and I lost Marion County but gained Hart County. So now the 24th House District is Greene, LaRue, and Hart. And I just dove in and just tried to try to put some good policy forward. I tried to stay in my lane, and my lane was agriculture and finance in the court system. So I tried to stay in that lane in those committees. And so I was blessed in 2019 to become the vice chair of appropriations and revenue for the House. At the time, the appropriations chair was Stephen Rudy, who was also a past state FA officer. And we was charged with writing the state budget. And then a few years later, he was blessed at becoming our floor leader, majority floor leader for the House. And Representative Jason Petrie out of Todd County became our A&R chair. And then him and I just clicked from the get-go, and we was charged with writing the budget. So it was just a blessing, serving my district, serving the members of the House. Truly a unique experience that will always stay with me. But that was kind of my path. It's just I came from a family of public service, a family of agriculture, and I just wanted to find my own path. And just through various opportunities and doors opening and doors closing, I was able to find that path to state legislature. And then last year in January, when Commissioner Shell was sworn in as our Commissioner of Agriculture, he called me and said, Brandon, would you please come over and help me at the Department of Agriculture and be my executive director for Office of Agriculture Policy? And I just said, absolutely. It was a hard choice to make, but I love what I did in the legislature, but I love what I do now. So no regrets either way. I love, God gave me 8 wonderful years in the legislature, and now he's given me another awesome opportunity to serve the citizens of Kentucky. And I'm able to put my history and my passion towards that. So it's a true blessing. But so Sheldon, Ruth Ann, that's kind of my path to where I am.
Yeah. Were there specific times when you were in public service in these roles, Brandon, where you were like, I am better at this role because of my time in FFA? And what were those? examples?
Every single moment. And I say that with all sincerity. That's just not a punchline. If you knew me in the state legislature, you knew I was Mr. FFA. I promoted FFA every chance I got. I actually said in some circles, if every student in Kentucky was an FFA, we would be the best educated state in the union. Now, I truly believe that because what FFA provides through its leadership program, what it provides by getting people out of their comfort zone, you can tell, at least I can, you can tell even the state legislature, what members of the legislature has an FFA background. The roles of parliamentary procedure and the actual application of that is so important. The FFA, from your first chapter meeting, you experience that and that stays with you. And as you get involved in parliamentary procedure and FFA and the doors that opens, you carry that throughout your life, how to run a meeting. Of course, in the legislature, it's a little bit more complex. We use Mason's law instead of Robert rules. So that was a little learning curve that I had to experience, but it's not too different. It's just it's a process difference. But you just know, just speaking, just absorbing your passion, absorbing what you're trying to communicate. And you can tell when someone's sincere about that, when someone's not sincere in that comes across. I think FFA does a wonderful job of finding, a student comes to FFA, they might have strengths, they might have weaknesses. FFA throws gasoline on their strengths, and it gives them an opportunity to work on their weaknesses. And it does it in a individual sense. It does it in a team sense. Everybody's working together. Yes, there's competition, but that's what I like about FFA is, you can find a contest for you. It could be speaking. It could be a proficiency. It could be a career development event. It could be running for office. There's hundreds of opportunities in FFA for you to find your path. And, for me specifically, there's times where I know beyond a shadow of a doubt when I was facing hard decisions in the process of making those hard decisions, if it wasn't for my time in the FFA, if it wasn't for the experience of team building, character building, just working with other people, that diversification of working with other people, if I hadn't had that FFA, it would have been really tough as a legislator. And I noticed that in other legislators, there's a learning curve when you don't have a background that the FFA provides. It just gives those that wasn't FFA, it gives them more of an advantage to see the landscape and kind of see what's going on, and you just notice it. You just notice it in every event. And in my role now, when the state FFA association, the foundation, strong relationship with the Department of Agriculture. Commissioner Shell was a state star farmer, loves FFA. It's just ingrained in my office. If you cut, I was known as the FFA room in the legislature. Well, all that stuff got moved over to Department of Agriculture. So when people come over, a lot of times Commissioner Shell, he'll just take them in my office and say, "This is the FFA room. Sit down. Let's have a meeting." So it's a good heritage. It's a good passion foundation that you all provide, and it's been going on since 1928, and it's just a blessing for generations. It really is.
You've been an incredible advocate for Kentucky FFA in so many ways. We have one more we want to ask you about and share on. Something our listeners should know is that you also worked at the Kentucky FFA Leadership Training Center as summer staff in the early 2000s. So not only did you do all these other things in FFA, you also worked at what we lovingly call FFA camp. In your time in the House, you had a big accomplishment that you played a role in that did impact the Kentucky FFA Leadership Training Center. So and it's something that members will be grateful for generations to come. So I just wanted to give you some space to talk about what that big accomplishment was in the House that you really played a big part in for our lovingly, as we call it, FFA camp.
Absolutely. So, I as the FFA member, going into that freshman, sophomore year, I heard about this thing called FFA camp in Hardinsburg, Kentucky. I was that kid that I'd never been to camp before, didn't know what to experience. I didn't know what it was about. So really didn't want to go. And I already signed up, I already paid my money. It was just one of those things where I really didn't know what to expect. I really didn't want to go, but I went anyway. I forced myself from that previous year in the FFA. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. And, from the first time that I stepped off the LaRue County Yellow School bus on the FFA grounds, the first person I saw was Dr. Pete Dreisbach.
Mhm.
Started, laughing and having conversations with all of us. And, my advisor told us that we would have a wonderful time. And, I didn't know if he was telling me the truth or not, but he just, he urged me to go, and I stepped off that bus. And that whole week, back then, we did the, excuse me, we did the FFA, the Quiz Bowl was at FFA camp. Yeah, so that's going back a while. So I signed up for the Quiz Bowl, and just leading up to that week, met people from all over the state. It was just right after state convention, and I met a few people at state convention, and then saw them there. Won the quiz contest, and that was awesome. Just had a wonderful experience, and then so I went from not wanting to go to FFA camp to next year I couldn't wait to go to FFA camp, and I don't know, that planted a seed. That place, those grounds, it just has a very special place in my heart, a lot of good memories. And of course, I went to FFA camp, up to high school, served my state FFA officer year. And then I was a staff member 2 years following that year. So just every moment I could spend there. I think at one point I counted up, I spent 6 months of my life at FFA camp. Of course, now that I'm 44, 6 months doesn't seem much, but back when I was 25, 6 months seemed like a pretty good amount of time. But fast forward, that seed that was planted, you all know the tree at FFA camp. Everybody goes and visits the tree. Well, it's kind of like that. There was a seed that was planted in my heart for FFA camp, and as life happened, as doors were open, as doors were closed, that seed kept growing. And you know, God puts us in places for special times. And he was, FFA gave so much to me, so much to my life, poured into me in every which way. And I found myself, as the vice chairman of appropriations and revenue in the state legislature in the General Assembly. And I had an opportunity, Mr. called and said, Brandon, we have an opportunity to make some good changes, some good advancements for generations to come at FFA camp. Can you help? And me and Stephen Rudy, we got together and said, because Stephen Rudy, he was a camp staff also. Actually, we served 1 year together as camp staff. And we just sat down and we just put, pencil to paper and said, we got to make this happen. And so we got it done. And of course, you got the Rising Sun Center there at FFA camp that's fixing to be put into motion. And it was a team effort. God put different people in different positions to make that happen. And we was just one small part of that puzzle. But it's worth it. So you asked me, what in FFA made me want to do something to give back? I mean, how could you not give back? I mean, what FFA has done for me in my life, but I think about what FFA will do for someone that's not even born yet. I mean, it's the mindset of that is just I just get shivers thinking about it. So, basically it comes down to God puts us in places at special times to give back to the people that poured into our lives. And I was just able, me and Leader Rudy was just able to do that. And we give thanks every day. It was a truly remarkable partnership and collaboration that we had with you all. Glad to get it done, and can't wait to see what it looks like when it's finished.
Yeah, me too. You talked so much about how FFA shaped us and then how we can shape FFA through our leadership and legacy. And you all have definitely done that. What's going to happen at FFA camp and the new Rising Sun Center, it will impact generations of students. We've owned FFA camp since 1937. People's grandparents have went to FFA camp. It really is a heritage. And, maybe one day your grandchildren will get to go to FFA camp and have that same experience. And it just keeps getting better because of people who give back when they have the opportunity to, and they do.
Absolutely. Chloe, my oldest daughter, she's in 8th grade. Next year, she'll be starting high school. She'll be putting on that blue corduroy jacket for the first time. She'll zip it up, and then FFA grows you inside. And then one day you got to take that jacket off for the last time and you unzip it, and the world gets to see what the FFA has done.
Wow, Brandon, that's beautiful. Well, I want to talk about another legacy with Kentucky agriculture and give a little bit of a history lesson, especially for our members now who they were not born when this happened. But when you were state FFA president, this was definitely probably a political issue of that time that people talked about heavily, and it was the Master Settlement Agreement. So just
Yeah.
really high level, the Master Settlement Agreement was with tobacco companies. Tobacco companies had to pay states for the damages done by smoking. Uh, Kentucky got a lot of money from that, but our whole agriculture industry was really shaped around people growing tobacco. And so at that time, we had some leaders, Billy Ray Smith, who was our Commissioner of Agriculture. He also worked for the foundation. The governor at that time, they appropriated some of that money for agriculture. So why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about in 2000, what that conversation was like and how the Ag Development Fund was set up?
So, Master Settlement Agreement came down in 1998. Back then, the Kentucky legislature did not meet in odd years. That was a constitutional amendment that was passed in 2000. So, 2000 was the first year for the legislature to look at that Master Settlement Agreement, and they did. So, under the leadership of Commissioner then Billy Ray Smith and Governor Paul Patton, before in 1999, the governor set up the Governor's Commission on Family Farms, and he brought in about 40 representatives from all over the state, all different industries, commodity groups, you can imagine. Um, at that time, the state FFA president had a seat on that commission. And so I was there for ground zero for all those discussions. It was really unique. They went down many, many paths. What should we do as a state? What are other states doing? What does this need to look like? How are we going to put a program in place for not only affecting current farmers, but for farmers, for decades to come. And that was part of the conversation. And so we met about once a month for about 18 months. And that led up to House Bill 611 in the year 2000, which set up the Office of Agriculture Policy, then the Governor's Office of Agriculture Policy. Kentucky is a unique state that, unlike other states, there was about 43 states that received funds from that master settlement agreement, and that's in perpetuity. So that's not a one-time appropriation. That money comes down every single year and will continue to do so. It's based off cigarette sales in the United States, and then that's based off states' population and the amount of burley tobacco at the time of the master settlement agreement in 1998. So every year, we as the state, we receive funds from that settlement. Of course, people are smoking less, so every year those funds are less and less. But House Bill 611 did something really unique. It set up 50% of the funds for agriculture, 30% of the funds for early childhood development, and 20% of the funds for medical. So 50% of the funds goes towards childhood development and medical, 50% of the funds goes to agriculture. So the 50% of the funds goes to agriculture, 65% of those funds goes to the state fund, and 35% gets dispersed to 118 counties in Kentucky, not 120, because at the time, Knott County and Pike County didn't have burley tobacco. So they didn't receive any of the funds. So there's county funds that we have county councils. They oversee those funds, and then there's state funds. And the
So
state
for our members, if they
Yeah.
have the county funds, this would be like the Cape matching funds for farmers. Lots of things to do locally, and that you can apply to start projects. All those things through those funds.
Absolutely. So the county councils, every year they get appropriate their funds through the formula, and they have options of spending money on individual projects, or they can participate in programs like CAPE. That's what everybody's well known of. YAPE, which is the youth program, dead animal removal, shared use. There's many programs out there. And absolutely. So that's what they're familiar with. And that's been going on for 25 years now. And then the 65% comes to the state board, and the State Board of Agriculture sets up its own projects and programs to administer those funds. One of those extensions, the path, is the ag. They set up another board called the Kentucky Ag Finance Corporation, And the Finance Corporation does participation loans with lenders throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And that's when someone can go and get a farm loan with your local bank or farm credit or something like that. And they do a participation loan with us, and our interest rate's 2.75%. That gets mirrored and blended with the bank's rate. And the farmers get a lesser interest rate. And it really helps them out. In fact, our beginning farmer loan program is really unique. And 10 years ago, the census data was showing that, the average Kentucky farmer was around 56.7. And in 10 years from that, it would be in the mid 60s. Well, when the census data came out last year, it only went up a couple of tenths. It was actually 57.1. And I think a lot of that has to contribute to the beginning young farmer loan program, where we're putting young farmers into their own farms. And I think more young farmers are getting involved in agriculture, and that's offsetting that projection. So we're really proud of that. And so the Ag Development Board, we meet the third Friday of every month. I can tell you where I'm going to be the third Friday of every month, and they've been doing that for 25 years. We have a strong office at the Agriculture Policy Office. We are 16 strong. And then we work with our ag agents throughout Kentucky, all 120. And we have to oversee the compliance, the process of all those county councils. So our staff, whenever there's a county council, part of my staff is there that night. We have to oversee their programs. We have to do compliance on the programs. We oversee the process on our Ag Development Board side, the compliance on our Ag Development Board side, and then the Finance Board itself. So over the last 25, that legacy has led to some pretty large numbers that we're proud of. Number one, over $800 million has gone into the local agriculture landscape through investments.
Wow.
And so, Sheldon, Ruth Ann, what does that look like? Well, the diversification of farmers throughout Kentucky, like you said, back in 2000, a lot of farmers, their major operation was tobacco crop.
Right.
Now that's only 2%. It's only 2% of our formula now. So the cattle market, the sheep and goat, the swine, the specialty crop, the row crop operations, everything that has been diverse because of this fund. Then in 2000, our it was like $2 billion, annual receipts, agriculture. Now it's $8 billion. I think a lot of that has to do with this $800 million that has invested in strategic planning throughout the last 25 years. One of the things I'm most proud of, though, is our Finance Corporation. We have over $161 million in assets. We have two guys that oversees the operations of that fund. That $161 million asset, that is larger than most banks and towns. That's huge. And that is a legacy. And the thing about the Finance Corporation is that's money that's coming back into the fund. So every dollar, that the Ag Development Board invests into the Finance Corporation, that's a loan that's going out. That's money, and that's interest that's coming back into its fund. It's feeding itself. And for the first time, I'm glad we did this today, because yesterday we found out for the first time, with the payments and the interest that's coming back this month, every month, it just happened. We're getting back $2 million coming back to the finance fund just from payments and interest.
Wow.
So what does that mean? Well, for example, this month we have about 13 applications, totaling about $1.8 million in loans. And we have $2 million of payments and interest coming back to us. So that the payments and interest alone is going to pay for this month's board meetings decisions. That's huge. It's in itself. This is one of the only funds in state government that is actually not only investing, we're seeing residual investment, exponential growth in agriculture community, but funds are being reproduced within itself in the fund itself. And that's huge, because as those funds get lower every year, we have to be good stewards of that money, just to make sure those investments keep up. So that's kind of the timeline. That's kind of what's going on right now. And I'm just really excited that we're celebrating the 25th year of that fund. We're going to start our celebration in June, and we're going to go to next June, and we're going to do highlights of the projects that we already have in place. We're going to promote our ag agents, our partners in statute that oversee the county councils. We're just going to celebrate 25 years of what this fund has done for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I can tell you, when we go to other meetings across the United States, other states, they don't do this. Tennessee has a similar fund like we set up, North Carolina a little bit, but most states, they just take that master settlement agreement money, they just throw in their budget, they use to balance their budget. This is set aside. This, and it's because of House Bill 611. It's because of those early conversations. We wanted this money to make an impact, but not only for those days back then, but for 25 years from now. And
Sure.
and it will be there. I want to thank the General Assembly for making sure this money stays in that fund. They do have to appropriate that every 2 years. But they have been, and it's just a great tool that we can use. I know the FFA, the state
Mhm.
has you know they've
Yeah.
reaped the rewards of this fund on so
Sure.
many levels. But
As you all are celebrating 25 years, FFA, we received $2.2 million in the year 2000. I actually have the big check over there. We pulled it
yeah,
out of FFA camp
yeah,
before they started on that building. So we just have it as that log of history. But we've invested that in an endowed fund. We take a small percentage every year. And now we have over 5 point something, it varies, but over $5 million. That $2.2 million has grown to over $5 million. And what we can
yeah,
take out of that fund, we can give back to support programs, to support students, to support our mission. So those decisions made by Billy Ray Smith, Paul Patton, those leaders in the early 2000s, 25 years later, we're reaping the benefits of that good leadership. And I think 25 years from now,
absolutely.
we're still going to be reaping the benefits
And
of all that.
And Sheldon, I'll tell you a cool story about that. When you said that, it's a funny memory. But I was at the state fair in 2000. I just concluded my state FA officer year, and we was helping out the state fair. And that House Bill 611 passed, and all the money and everything, and they was starting to disperse that money. Billy Ray Smith came up to me there at the West Hall. And
Mm-hmm.
about 10 feet away, he just screamed at me, Brandon, we got our money. We got our money. Well, he reached and grabbed me and was shaking me. He was so happy. I fell down on the floor. He almost fell down on top of me. I mean, I remember that now, but yeah, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that brings me
Sure.
back. So, but it was
That's
it was
so cool.
exciting, and I know you're excited about it. I mean, just what you said about how that's the residual income that's coming off that. It's helping you all every year. It's
Sure.
making through. It's investing. It's investing into FFA members now and continue will do so. But it's just great. I'm just glad Kentucky had the foresight and the fortitude to not only think of that, but to make that happen. Because you have to think back then, the amount of money that was available back then, you're talking about over $200 million that they was looking at in
Yeah.
2000. Now it's about total what we get is last year was like 105 million. As that goes through the formula, we received about 27 million.
Okay.
25 years ago, Ag Development Board received almost 200 million. So that can kind of show you how it's gone down in the years.
Sure.
But $800 million in investments, $161 million
Incredible.
bank, basically.
Yeah.
It's just
And,
a blessing.
you know,
But I'm
for
I'm proud
current
of it. But
Absolutely. For current FFA members, this is a lot of information to take in and understand, but you could spend a whole year in class studying the impacts of this money on your community, what's available to you as a young person who might want to farm or want to grow a farming operation. You have opportunities available in Kentucky that really are not available in other places because of the Ag Development Fund. And it's important that we understand that.
absolutely. If they won't go talk to Dr. Will Snell, he'll gladly give you a lesson on it. He studies that every single year. So
Yeah. Well, Brandon, thank you for being a guest today. We've enjoyed you so much, and I think this is going to be just one of our top episodes to learn some awesome history and also leadership of what you all have done when we get FFA members who have that legacy of leadership and they get to be in roles of influence, how it really matters. And we always close with the same three questions. Our first is, what keeps you motivated as a leader?
the Bible says, "Without vision, my people will perish." Um, Going back to my state FFA interviews, they asked me what was the most important word in the English language and why, and I said vision, and because of that verse, um, we have to as a leader, we have to know where we came from. We have to study the history so we don't make the same mistakes. We have to be in the present. We have to make sure our loved ones are taken care of. We have to make sure we're making good, sound, moral decisions to move good policy forward and to execute good policy. But we have to look for the future to the future. We have to have vision to say where we want our grandkids to be from the decisions that we're making today. So that word focuses me every single day. My actions today as a leader, will this make the next generation better or worse? And I try to gauge it on that. And that all has to go back to the word of vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you know, the Kentucky FFA Foundation, we're a philanthropy. It's what we do, what we're rooted in. And we love to ask our guests just what is the most meaningful way that you've gotten to engage in philanthropy in your life?
I've been involved in a lot of different, very, very good projects. Of course, FFA, I give where I can there and urge other people to give where I can there. I think your all's program of the providing the FFA jacket is huge. I remember growing up, there was some FFA members, they wanted an FFA jacket, they just couldn't afford it. Of course we made it happen, but I think that program that you all have started and continue to pour into is very unique. One of my passions, and it's, everybody that knows me understands mostly my background, but I was born with cerebral palsy, and that's just something I've overcame over life. But early on, there wasn't a lot of places that could do therapy and stuff back when I was born and stuff. But my mom and dad, they took me to the Kids Center for Cerebral Palsy up in Louisville um, every Tuesday for 5 years. And that place poured into me, and I've been involved in certain aspects of helping them because they don't turn no child away. If the child can afford it, awesome. If they have insurance, awesome. But if they don't have none of that, they've never turned any child away. And some years that was been tough to do. But that place, without that place, I wouldn't be where I am today. So my passion is to make sure kids nowadays that have development problems and have physical problems that they have to overcome, that place sees the ability and disability. And they poured into me, and fast forward, the FFA, what you all do is an extension of that, but to many, many more kids. You all pour into so many more kids. So I urge anybody listening to this, whatever you can do, either your local FFA chapter,
Mm-hmm.
either your state FFA foundation, whatever you can give. $1 makes a difference.
Yeah.
$10,000 makes a difference. $100,000 makes a difference. But everything makes a difference. And I tell you what, I guarantee you, you go 20 years from now, and you find an FFA member that couldn't afford an FFA jacket, and they received one because of other people's generosity, that no FFA member will be turned away. And you grab them and tell them, you got that FFA jacket. What did it mean to you? I guarantee you, after 5 minutes, you'll be crying.
Wow. Yeah.
How can you put a price on that?
Yeah. And I love what you said. Our goal is that no FFA members turned away. That really is it. There is a cost barrier to be involved in extracurricular activities, to go on trips, to go to camp. And that really is our mission, is to make sure that all students get to have that opportunity, regardless if they can afford it or not. So
Absolutely. Y'all
that's
do a
what's
wonderful
important.
job. Just continue.
Thank you.
I guarantee you 20 years from now, you'll hear stories and it'll
Yeah,
blow.
I hope so. Well, our last question, it's a little silly usually, but it's pretty simple. What is something that you cannot stop talking about? It could be anything. What's on your mind right now?
My family, my wife and my kids. I love them. They love me. They had to sacrifice a lot in the last 8 years to be a legislator. A family goes through a lot to go through that process. When I ran for that, it was a family decision, and now I get to do something else. But I mean, they crack me up. I see myself and all my kids, and I just pray for them every day. I just, I just hope a lot of that gets out of them. No, they just, I wake up in the morning thanking God every day for my family, and, my mom and dad and my grandparents. Everybody that's poured into me. But now, having kids and my lovely wife, my bride beside me, we get to pour into a new generation, and just seeing them grow and seeing them make mistakes and fall down and get back up at every stage. It's just a blessing. And just it just my lens of how I see them, is shaped by all the experiences you have in life. But I mean, sincerely, just they crack me up. The things they do every day, and they make me cry. The things that they make me think about, and they make me have a few gray hairs also. So
Sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brandon, thank you for being here with us today. I enjoyed it so much, and I look forward to seeing your daughter zip up a blue corduroy jacket next year too. We'll keep
Me
going
too.
so they could have that great experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Ruth Ann. Thank you for everything you all do. It's truly appreciated. If you're not told, thank you all.
Oh, well, we appreciate that very much. And you all, thank you for joining us on this episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We'll see you next week. Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.